Well, the tech billionaire Elon Musk is blaming Ukraine for a supposed cyber attack leading to outages on his social media platform X. A hacking group is claiming credit, but security experts aren't convinced by those attributions. Joining me now is CyberCX Corporate Affairs Executive Director Jordan Newnham. Jordan, thanks so much for your time. It seems like attribution in a cyber hacking incident is often a pretty murky proposition. What's your understanding of what's gone on here?
Well, that's absolutely right, Ash. Attribution is always very technically difficult when it comes to cyber attacks like this. What I think Elon Musk has demonstrated here is clearly he knows a lot about certain things, whether that's electric vehicles or rockets and things that have made him a very wealthy individual. But his claims about this cyber attack would indicate that he's being either a bit misleading or ignorant, perhaps, when it comes to cybersecurity matters. So in order to knock the X platform or website offline for somewhere between 4 and 6 hours, a massive outage for a big, well-used website. This is what's probably called a distributed denial of service attack or DDoS attack. Now, Elon Musk has said that's a massive cyber attack. These attacks in reality are happening all the time. So the CyberCX cyber intelligence team, for instance, observed around 120 of these sorts of attacks impacting Australian and New Zealand businesses just last year alone.
And when those attacks happen, how hard is it to determine if an attack is actually state-sponsored or not? Again, I assume that's really very difficult.
Indeed. So attribution is incredibly difficult. Part of the reason is when we talk about a DDoS attack, the first D in that acronym is distributed. So this is when, if I wanted to do a DDoS type attack in the real world, to say someone who owned a cafe or coffee shop, I'd have to get hundreds of people to mill around outside that business and queue up to block legitimate customers from being able to get in and that business making any money. In the online world, the way a DDoS attack works is this is done digitally with thousands, if not millions of connected devices distributed all over the world, all pointing at the same website at the same time in order to crash that website and stop legitimate users from being able to use that website and its services. So this is what happened to X. Elon Musk is saying they're tracing it back to an IP or internet protocol address in Ukraine. That may be true, but it's also just as likely true that many of the IP addresses that were mobilised for such an attack probably from all over the world, including Australia, for all we know. So it's very early in an attack for someone like Elon Musk when they're analysing what happened in this instance to be saying this definitely came from Ukraine or even is suspected to come from Ukraine. Much more likely this is a botnet type network of millions of devices around the world that have been pointed at X. Also point out that there's been concerns about the cybersecurity at X for a while now, given that when Elon Musk bought what was then called Twitter 2 or 3 years ago, one of the first things he did was gut their workforce by about 50%. That included key people in their security team who raised concerns about what that might mean for the security of the now X platform going forward. So it's hard to say how much of X's resources have been invested in DDoS protection, which a lot of Australian and other countries, large organisations invest in protection to prevent these types of attacks from being successful. But I dare say in the last 24 hours, the DDoS protections at X have been significantly upgraded as a result of this attack.
And when it comes to these cyber hacks, I mean, the one that we were discussing there about X seemed to cause a lot of chaos and confusion and perhaps was targeted at Elon Musk itself in terms of motivation. But most cyber hacks have a financial goal, don't they?
Well, that's right. There's 3 main groups of sort of threat actors, as we call them, or hackers who attempt cyber attacks like this or other forms of data breaches and ransomware type attacks. The first group is nation states, and sort of Elon Musk is implied this might have come from Ukraine, and others have started to join some dots around, is Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, taking out some petty form of revenge here? I think he's probably got bigger fish to fry, if I'm honest. But the second group of potential attackers in the cyber world are cyber criminals, as you allude to, people trying to make some money. And we have seen cyber criminals attempt DDoS attacks in order to extort a payment from victims. So they'll say, we're going to knock your website offline until you pay us some money. But the third type of group, and we've seen a huge surge, the main type of group that commits DDoS attacks are hacktivist groups or issues-based groups who, it's kind of a digital form of vandalism. They might be trying to prove some sort of point. And as you alluded to, there actually is a pro-Palestinian hacktivist group that initially did seek to claim this attack was one of their own.
Jordan Newnham, fascinating to speak with you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ash.